Not too long ago, we ranked every single gun in Call of Duty history that started with the letter A. I know, it was crazy. And you know what? A lot of you said keep going with the alphabet. I don't know if we'll make it all the way through the alphabet, but we can definitely make it through B. We're going to keep the series going. What is up, everybody? Jimmy, your Chaos. Today, we're going to be ranking every single gun in Call of Duty history that starts with the letter B. Give me your best guess as to what number one will be. You let me know in the comments, right? Drop a like on the video, and if you want us to keep going with the stupid alphabet series, I mean, we can. I read every single comment on every single video, so let's get going. At number 32, the obvious pick, and remember, we're ranking these worst to best. The blunderbuss in AW. It was designed to be bad. It was a pirate shotgun. It would kill in one shot, but only if you were at point blank range. And when I say point blank range, I emphasize point blank range. Then you'd have to sacrifice the next 7 seconds to reload it and just hope that nobody was going to run up and punch you in the face 10 times before you could finish loading the gun back. I won't deny it was super satisfying to get a one-shot kill with this thing, and it was always funny to see your target go fly away once you hit him with it, but it was situational. And that reload animation was long. It was so long the blunderbuss was never actually worth taking into battle. I think it's pretty clearly the worst B gun in Call of Duty history, and since we're talking about it, let's get number 31 out of the way. The blunderbuss in COD World War II. Sledgehammer decided to bring back the meme gun, right? One of the DLC weapons. Once again, one of the worst guns in COD history. The only reason it was better this time around was the simple fact that Call of Duty World War II was a boots-on-the-ground game, so it did mean it was easier to ensure your target was going to be in shotgunning range, whereas in Advanced Warfare, your target could hit the A button twice and they were gone. But the blunderbuss was still terrible. It only held one shot at a time. The reload animation took 10 years to complete, and you weren't even guaranteed the one-shot kill because of how inconsistent the range was. And yes, I know it was bad on purpose. I know it was a meme gun, but that doesn't mean it gets a pass. It was terrible. At number 30, the Bren in COD World War II. This is not only one of the worst B guns, it's one of the ugliest guns in Call of Duty history. Yeah, it was an LMG in Call of Duty World War II that had some of the most obstructive iron sights ever due to the fact that the magazine was on the top of the gun instead of the bottom. So you'd lose, I mean, I'm not exaggerating when I say you'd lose about half your screen every time you held down the ADS button. And on top of that, the fire rate was so slow you were regularly getting killed by people just bobbing and weaving in between your bullets. You had to try to adapt. Slow handling, horrible visibility, terrible fire rate, no fun. Belongs at number 30. Nobody liked the COD World War II Bren. Don't act like you did. You didn't. At number 29, the Bren in Call of Duty Vanguard. I'll freely admit that this placement might just be personal bias against the Bren, but I hated it in Call of Duty World War II, and I hated it in Vanguard. Granted, I wasn't playing a whole lot of Vanguard, but I still thought the gun was unnecessarily awkward and clunky. It wasn't quite as slow as it was in Call of Duty World War II, and obviously the 10 attachment gunsmith in Vanguard gave you a little extra wiggle room to make things better, but I'm still going to put it in the bottom of the tier list because the Bren sucks. I don't care who you are. It's a bad gun. At number 28, the Banshee, Infinite Warfare. The pump-action shotgun that it wasn't that bad. I mean, I'm going to put it at 28 because it didn't perform well in Infinite Warfare. Yes, it hit hard, and yes, you could land some solid one-shot kills, but also this is Infinite Warfare. The speed of the game and the map design made pump-action shotguns really difficult to use consistently, and that is part of the reason why you never saw this gun online. In the right conditions, it was decent. But how often do you actually get the right conditions in this game? And if a gun is only decent in the right conditions, is it really a good gun? Think about that. At number 27, the BAS-B in Modern Warfare 3 2023. Super creative name. The battle rifle. Default by unlock. Had some solid potential, although it was held back by the extremely low fire rate and the inconsistent damage profile. Semi-automatic could kill with a single bullet to the head, but the fire rate cap was so low that if you didn't get the one-shot kill to the head, you were more likely going to get killed by the person you were shooting at before you could hit all the body shots you needed. Now, I guess you could argue back and say the high ammo capacity actually made it a really good weapon because if you had perfect accuracy, you could theoretically get a whole bunch of insta-kills, but how often did that actually happen? One-shot kill headshots were nice. They were. At the end of the day, though, it was a difficult gun to use. At number 26, the Banshee in Black Ops 3. This thing had potential. It was one of the only guns in Call of Duty history that was a one-shot kill no matter what. Didn't matter how far away you were. Didn't matter what attachments you were running. The Banshee would instantly kill anybody it touched. That was definitely a very powerful piece of weaponry to have in your hands, but it was still probably only the 26th best B gun because it was hard to use. Instead of firing a hit-scan bullet like every other gun in the game, you had this slow-moving energy projectile, which meant you were struggling to hit your shots beyond close range, and that could sometimes get really frustrating. So even though it had a lot of potential, the insane skill gap limited its effectiveness to the point that I really couldn't put it higher than 26. At number 25, the Browning M1919 in Call of Duty World War II. This was one of the least used guns in World at War. Not Call of Duty World War II, World at War. AI wouldn't have done that. Mainly because of how huge and clunky it was compared to other machine guns. The iron sights, they weren't very helpful if you were trying to be precise with them. And now it's interesting because the damage stats were actually pretty good, but the handling was so bad you almost never could get the most out of it. I'm not going to say it was a bad gun, but it wasn't very good. A lot of people forget it was actually in the game because you never saw it online. And it started with the letter B. At number 24, the Bulldog in Ghosts. Semi-auto shotgun, probably the best weapon in its class, and yet it's only getting the number 24 spot because shotguns as a whole were pretty crappy in Call of Duty Ghosts. The maps in the game were huge. Close quarters combat was super rare. So rare, you were basically at a disadvantage if you were running a shotgun as your primary weapon. I mean, the Bulldog was honestly a pretty good shotty if you were just looking at the stats, but the map design did not complement those stats. I think 24 is a fair place. It's not that the gun was bad, but the maps of Call of Duty Ghosts did not give it any chance to shine. At number 23, the bar in Call of Duty Vanguard. Now, with how many guns there are in Vanguard now, and how many attachments you can throw on all these guns, it was inevitable that some of them were going to blend together in your brain. Honestly, I don't remember much about the bar in the game other than the fact that it was perfectly average without the 10 attachments, and then it was perfectly average with the 10 attachments, so here it is, almost middle of the road. Out of all the B guns in Call of Duty, I mean, history, it was probably one of the most, or no, least memorable, but there's lots of versions of the bar that were much more memorable. Well, stick around. At number 22, the Barrett 50 cal in Modern Warfare 3 2011. Now, the Barrett 50 cal is one of the only guns to appear in all 3 original Modern Warfare games, which makes it kind of strange that it's barely shown up in the new Modern Warfare series. I mean, I guess you have the Rytec AMR in Modern Warfare 2019, but that was one of the worst snipers in Call of Duty history, so I think we'd all be better if we forgot about that one. The Modern Warfare 3 Barrett, heavily nerfed from the first 2 Modern Warfare games, and while it still had solid potential, there were things holding it back. The movement speeds were slow this time around, very slow, and the damage, it could feel a bit inconsistent since the stopping power perk was removed. I think some of you watching this video will end up being upset with me for ranking it this low, but when you see what other B guns are on the list, I'm hoping you understand. Give Jimmy some grace. Modern Warfare 3 Barrett wasn't a bad gun overall. It was just overshadowed by a ton of other guns in Modern Warfare 3 as well as other guns on this list. At number 21, the BASP in Modern Warfare 2 2022, super creative name. I'm pretty sure this SMG was based on the real-world SIG MPX, and as you would expect, that meant very high fire rate, very decent recoil control, and a built-in subsonic ammo that could keep you off the radar, or under the radar. But despite all the attributes, the BAS was widely seen as lower tier as far as Modern Warfare 2 SMGs went because of the simple fact that it didn't do anything better than other guns in the game. So sure, had a high fire rate, sure, decent recoil control, but so did several other SMGs in the game that did more damage, and sure, had subsonic ammo, which is cool, but most of the other SMGs in the game just had attachments you could equip to give yourself all those advantages anyway. The BAS needed more in order to be seen as worth it to the community. Most people just passed on over and kept using whatever SMG they were already spamming. At number 20, the Bekowitz in COD World War II. Hope I said that right. It's one of the many machine guns or submachine guns added to Call of Duty World War II with content patches. I have no clue how I'm supposed to pronounce the name, but I will confidently say it was an okay weapon. Not crazy, not special, okay. Pretty high fire rate for an SMG in this game and a pretty generous 32-round mag, but it also had a really low damage and an overall average time to kill. Recoil, I would say manageable. Helped keep you on target, made the gun perfectly average all the way around, so here it is at number 20. The amount of DLC weapons available in the game by the time it was all said and done, it's super commendable, so I'm going to give Sledgehammer some credit there. But I'm not going to put the B, or the Beck, higher than 20 because I don't see what it did better than basically every other SMG in Call of Duty World War II, aside from the WAF. That thing was bad. At number 19. The Bruin MK9 in Modern Warfare 3 2023. Now, it debuted in Modern Warfare 2019. But the Modern Warfare 3 version was pretty clearly nerfed in an attempt to keep it from being such a balancing problem. Again, we'll talk about the older brother later. The Modern Warfare 3 version of the Bruin featured pretty good handling speeds, really good DPS at the cost of somewhat unpredictable recoil and much, much heavier penalties for certain attachments. Now, the base stats, they were good. There were some devastating gunsmith builds you could do, but ultimately, this is a fair spot. You really had to know what you were doing with the Bruin in this game in order to be successful in Modern Warfare 3. But if you did know what you were doing, the potential was insane. But if you didn't know what you were doing, the downsides, they were pretty obvious. At number 18, the Ballista. God, World War II. I don't know. It fired at an even 750 rounds per minute. The game's description called it fast firing, which I think is a little weird because 750 rounds per minute isn't exactly fast for Call of Duty World War II, but whatever. The 750 rounds per minute is the same as the infill from Black Ops 1. Since everybody knows that the infill from Black Ops 1 was amazing, that means that this gun was actually amazing as well, or maybe it wasn't. Honestly, I'm not sure what to think of this gun because it was added so late into the game's life cycle. In fact, it was added after this game's life cycle ended. The gun was added in DLC in June of 2019. That's more than a year and a half after Call of Duty World War II launched. So I guess I could put it at number 18 because I've heard it's decent. In the gameplay videos I've seen, it looks decent. I just don't know for sure. I'm sure somebody will tell me in the comments what to think of it and how bad I butchered the name. At number 17, the Bulldog in Advanced Warfare. It's one of several weapons that appeared in both Ghost and Advanced Warfare. Not really sure what happened. I mean, there was Infinity Ward and Sledgehammer comparing notes during the development of the two games. Probably they're not the same canon, so I'm not sure what they would be doing there. Several guns that were introduced in COD Ghost came back in Advanced Warfare. Whatever. Anyway, the Bulldog shotgun was one of those guns, and it was way better in AW than it was in Ghost, mainly because of how much easier it was to use. Now, functionally, it was more or less the same. Semi-auto shotgun, decent damage, solid ammo capacity, but in AW, you could use your jetpack to close the gap between you and your enemy players, making the Bulldog much more viable than it was in the long-range snooze fest that was Call of Duty Ghost. At number 16, the Bruin MK9 in Modern Warfare 2019. When it was introduced in the game and Warzone, it broke the game, especially in Battle Royale. But after all the patches, I would say mid-tier. Damage was good for an LMG, but the handling was slow. If you wanted to speed up the handling, the most effective way to do it was with the 60-round magazine attachment, which was one of the most broken attachments in the game, but after it was patched, it actually ended up being a pretty major trade-off between mobility and accuracy. Now, at the time I'm making this video, the Bruin in that game is upper mid-tier. Pretty strong if you know how to make the right gunsmith build, but it takes quite a bit of work to get all the attachments you need, and even if you do that, there's probably better choices. At number 15, the Bison in Call of Duty Ghost. There was a time when this gun was actually top tier. But after Infinity Ward nerfed it, you didn't see it much more online. That said, the Bison had a huge following. I still think it's a decent weapon after all the nerfs, just not as good as it once was. The ammo capacity, fantastic. Damage, decent. Handling speeds, super fast. When Ghost first came out, the time to kill was quick to this thing. But obviously that's not the case anymore, so it's more of a big magazine bullet hose with an average time to kill, but it's still a pretty nice weapon. It is. I mean, it's not mind-blowing, but it's fun. It's versatile. At number 14. The BP-50 in Call of Duty Vanguard. This was the remake of the F-2000, and I have no clue why it was put in a World War II game, but here we are. Sledgehammer just really liked the F-2000 for some reason, so they decided to put it in a World War II game, even though that makes no sense. But if we disregard the complete lack of historical accuracy there, the BP-50 in Vanguard, pretty good. Time to kill quick, recoil isn't nearly as bad as the classic F-2000 from Modern Warfare 2. Ammo capacity, not the best. Reload animation, a bit long. But the BP-50 had something going for it. It was way better than the Modern Warfare 2 original. That's not saying a lot because the Modern Warfare 2 original was bad, but yeah. At number 13. The Basilisk in Modern Warfare 2 2022. The 5-shot revolver. You heard me right, 5 shots. And it would kick like an absolute mule, but seriously rewarded you if you could somehow stay on target. For a handgun, super heavy, super punishing if you miss, but the damage profile, it was through the roof, off the charts, to the moon, capable of a one-shot kill to the head from a pretty impressive distance. It also had some of the coolest blueprints in the entire game, so sure, it doesn't actually have anything to do with the stats of the gun, but it did make you feel a lot cooler if you had a cool blueprint. At number 12, the Bryson 800 in Modern Warfare 2 2022, the pump-action shotgun that had several downsides when you first unlocked it, but it ended up getting quite a bit of attention because of the sheer amount of attachments available. That allowed you to customize it more heavily than most shotguns. By default, you held 6 shells at a time. It was only effective at close range, but with the right attachments, you could make it a one-shot kill up to mid-range while also beefing up the ammo capacity, the fire rate, the reload time, and everything else about it. I mean, I guess it did require a lot more grinding than most guns to be viable, but if you put the work in, it's number 12. At number 11, the Bar in World at War. Now, the WoW version of the Bar was one of the bounciest guns in Call of Duty history. It was also one of the chunkiest. Not only did it sound huge while you were pulling the trigger, but it also hit like a freaking Mack truck, usually killing with 2 bullets if you had stopping power. Now, the ammo capacity was limited. We know that. And the recoil, it was nuts. But if you paced your shots well or played at mid-range, the Bar could be one of the most game-changing weapons at your disposal. Cleaned up enemies left and right with a few shots, and on top of all that, the iron sights. Those are some of my favorites in Call of Duty history, even if the aperture sight was also one of the greatest optics in Call of Duty history. At number 10, the Bryson 890. Yeah, now another pump-action shotgun, but instead of being a single shell-loaded weapon like the Bryson 800, the 890 used a full magazine to speed up the reload animation while also unlocking a ton of additional playstyles. The fact that it was fed by a magazine meant that it could hold more shells at a time while also keeping the downtime minimal since you were loading all the shells at the same time. Now, the damage was lower than the Bryson 800 as a way to compensate for the additional ammo, but the 890, it was pretty great for a one-shot kill range gun with the right attachments. I mean, I guess you could say that the Bryson 890 was just an all-around buff version of the 800, and the 800 was already powerful, so yeah, very solid B gun. At number 9, the BP-50 in Modern Warfare 3 2023. I don't know what the deal is with Sledgehammer and the F-2000. They brought it back in Vanguard for no reason, then they brought it back again in Modern Warfare 3 2020, once again with the new BP-50 name. I mean, somebody over at Sledgehammer must have been watching my videos during the development of Modern Warfare 3 because they decided to buff the BP-50 in between Vanguard and Modern Warfare 3 and make it even more powerful and more versatile. The Modern Warfare 3 version of it maintained that high fire rate, relatively low recoil, but the new version of the gunsmith made the attachments even better. The reduced recoil, extended range, it turned into a melt machine. The reload animation, yes, it was long, but that's basically the only downside of the weapon. So somebody over at Sledgehammer must be part of the OG F-2000 fan club because not only did they keep bringing back the F-2000, but they kept buffing it with every new appearance. If the F-2000 comes back in Call of Duty 2026, I'm fully expecting it to be the best gun in the game. At number 8, the Bullfrog in Black Ops Cold War. Now, when Cold War dropped, the Bullfrog was seen as one of the worst SMGs in the game because despite the big magazine and low recoil, the base damage was low and the time to kill sucked. But then people realized how high the headshot multiplier was, and the Bullfrog became one of the most popular SMGs in the game for high-skill players. Make no mistake, the gun is not good unless you have good aim, and unless you can consistently hit headshots. But if you can hit consistent headshots, it's arguably the best SMG in the entire game because the bonus damage you get for each headshot is huge. So if you can stay on target and aim high, you get a ridiculous amount of mileage out of that huge 50-round default magazine. I put it at number 8 because it's definitely a more high-skill weapon than most choices in Black Ops Cold War, but I have seen some insane gameplays from people using this. I think the raw potential, I think it earned the spot. At number 7, the bar in Call of Duty World War II. Now, this version of the bar was broken on launch day, but after all the patches, here it is at number 7. If it had been patched, I'd say top 3, probably, but right now 7. 3-shot kill range isn't as broken as it once was. Still forgiving. The accuracy is definitely intimidating if you're not the one pulling the trigger. Now, in a game like Call of Duty World War II, the bar's versatility was scary. I'll admit, some of my favorite firing sound effects in the entire game. It sounds fat, and even though it's been nerfed quite heavily from the 1.0 version of the game, here it is. At number 6, the Bal 27 in Modern Warfare 3 2023. Sledgehammer brought a few Advanced Warfare guns into the game. I thought it was all that weird cannon clash, but it's pretty cool to see some of the AW guns that I loved get remade in the modern COD engine. I'm not saying I love the Bal, sorry. Bal 27 in Modern Warfare 3 wasn't nearly as busted as it was in Advanced Warfare, thank goodness. But it had insane amounts of potential. Pretty crazy to see this AW gun get buffed in the gunsmith. It maintained that crazy 3 to 4-shot kill range, silky smooth handling. I mean, you had additional buffs from the different barrels, handles, ammo types, all of that the gunsmith offered. Now, I do wonder how many people playing Modern Warfare 3 never actually got to experience the original Bal. I mean, enough time has passed that it's been a pretty substantial number of people, right? Advanced Warfare came out in 2014. That was, oh my God, that was 12 years ago. Now we arrive at the top 5. The best of the Bs. The Barrett 50 cal in COD 4. The M48-3, definitely the most popular sniper rifle in the original Modern Warfare, but the second most popular was the Barrett, and that popularity made it one of the most iconic weapons in the entire franchise. I still think it's funny that the M40 was the most popular sniper in the game, and yet it never got a remake, yet the Barrett was the second most popular sniper in the game, and it was remade for literally every game in the original trilogy, but I digress. The COD 4 Barrett was smooth, insane potential, fire rate was uncapped, firing sound was like cannons going off. I mean, it carried a one-shot kill damage profile that you could brag about. The idle sway could get a little frustrating. The recoil was definitely high, but if you were consistent with the shots, it did not matter. Definitely top 5 best guns start with a letter B. And if you think the COD 4 Barrett deserved a higher spot, wait till you see the other 4 guns we're going to talk about, because there's some pretty insane B guns in COD history. A lot of mediocre ones, but we're done with those. At number 4, the B23R in Black Ops 2. One of the best machine pistols in Call of Duty history. 3-round burst, super fast fire rate, very short time between bursts, near instant reload animation. If you learn the timing of the animation, cancel. One burst kill range, pretty short, right? But you would hardly ever notice that because the fire rate was so fast. You could easily get a second burst out before even realizing you missed the first burst, which made it a force to be reckoned with. Heck, it wasn't that uncommon to see people ditching their primary weapon and using the B23R as a centerpiece of their entire class, which is crazy for a game like Black Ops 2. It's definitely one of the best machine pistols in Call of Duty history. Easily top 5 spot of B guns. At number 3, here we go. The Barrett 50 cal in Modern Warfare 2 2009. Had to be high up, right? May have debuted in the original Modern Warfare, but it peaked with Modern Warfare 2, where it was the most popular sniper in the game. Second, well, I don't know. It's a debate. Obviously, the iconic intervention. I'll let you guys choose. The Barrett maintained the high fire rate, the great ammo capacity from COD 4, but it got a huge movement buff because of all the new perks, and all those paired nicely with the new kill streaks. Honestly, the COD 4 and Modern Warfare 2 Barretts, they're pretty interchangeable in terms of stats. But the Modern Warfare 2 version was just so much better because of how many more tools the game gave you to use the rifle. The Modern Warfare 2 Barrett was iconic, absolutely deserves this spot, but frankly, there was one other sniper that started with a B in COD history that deserved to be higher. At number 2, the Ballista in Black Ops 2. DSR was the most popular sniper in Black Ops 2 at launch, but after the infamous nerf, the Ballista took a commanding lead it never lost. Today, the Ballista is seen as one of the most iconic snipers in Call of Duty history, and everybody knows why. Handling, great. Super smooth. Ammo capacity was high. The one-shot kill range was small, but skill-based. It was constantly motivating you to get better at the game so you could take full advantage of the gun. The Ballista may have not been the easiest gun to actually use, but it was one of the most rewarding, and it had so much potential if you were willing to put the time into mastering the mechanics and staying consistent with the one-shot kill range. If you ask me, this was the best sniper in Call of Duty history that started with the letter B. And that leaves one more B gun to be covered. Some of you COD historians have already figured it out. You know what's missing. Here we go. At number 1, wasn't even close. The Bal 27 in Advanced Warfare. There's no uncertainty here. It dominated the entire game. It's one of the most infamous guns in Call of Duty history. An assault rifle with great handling speed, super low recoil, incredible 3 to 4 shot kill range. And on top of that, a bunch of variants that made it even better as the base version wasn't already powered enough. And on top of that, the base version was unlocked by default because Sledgehammer was a bunch of trolls. The Bal 27 was the best gun in Advanced Warfare. I firmly believe it's the best gun in Call of Duty history that started with the letter B. As much as people like to argue about these ranking videos in the comment sections, I don't think there's going to be a disagreement here. You guys let me know. Should we do C?